one of my biggest struggles right now is behavioral health.
PTSD, mental health issues. I've got digestive issues. I've got an underlying lung condition. I haven't worked in the last 2 years.
I have a not so rare, but still considered rare disease called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. That's one of my issues.
I am art phobic. I'll start with that. With the exception of, I'm obsessed with my iPhone. So that's been the way that I finally later in life found a way to like an outlet for creativity. And so I love photography.
It was so rad to feel like we were both talking about the intersections of like one person lives in a more rural area and they were like, I can either get my trans affirming healthcare or I can get my rare healthcare, but I can't get both. And I have to just decide at certain times. And I just like, it was just nice because everyone was like, oh, we like, just like get it.
I mean, that's like a common theme, I think, with a disability and is where it's like, there's always this, you know, not being able to be your full self in any setting. Even in settings that seems very like accepting and open, it's still like, there's that I don't get it mentality.
For me with prep, like I have to have a battle every time I need a refill or even just my routine testing, or I have to be the one educating my doctors on like what prep is, how it works, and how I use it personally. And that's always an awkward conversation. Now I'm like desensitized to it, but I finally found a doctor who's actually, he's queer. So it's like, it's amazing. It's the best doctor I've ever had so far.
I'm very present when I'm taking pictures. It's like I'm really zoomed into like the detail, and it's like I'm there, right there, to the point where I was suicidal and I couldn't be present. But then photography like brought me back to like the joy of being present and the beauty in life. And so I can relate to what you're saying.
I love how a lot of specialists will try to convince me that it's safe for me to have a child, even with all of my complications. They're like, don't worry. We work, like literally my cardiologist, my first ever cardiologist had this conversation with me and was like, don't worry. I work with women like you all the time. We can totally do this. And I was like, I'm gay. And they were like, oh God, then have your partner do it because like, come on. And I was like, well, then why did you just say that to me? Like, I understand that you want to support everyone and I get it. And a lot of women with my condition do have children, but also that seems a little irresponsible that was your reaction.
When you guys are talking about like, you know, I can go to a group and I can, you know, like, oh, I can be a mom or I can be a lesbian or I can, you know, whatever. It's like, I feel like I'm really honestly often leaving parts of myself out of the conversation because it just feels extraneous, which is not very fun. Like I would like to be able to bring my whole self to wherever I am. And I'm working hard to do that, like to not be in the closet about any of these things. But
I also got a really, really severe concussion in college and I started painting through it because I wasn't allowed to play music for like 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really bad concussion.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that like you were talking about like disabilities that aren't seen. Like I think a lot of people who struggle with mental disabilities need that space. Like I know I do.
And it's cool the society is run by a gay woman. Like what? Like I'm just saying it's kind of awesome. I really look up to her. And they did throw in for Pride Month, they did like a queer EDS support group. And it was the closest I've gotten. I go to the hospital twice a week. So like, that's my fun.
You're like, why didn't you like rent a wheelchair or a walker the whole time?
I hate when doctors say that. I once had a doctor say, oh, well then just don't raise your arms above your head.
Right.
No joke. No. That was his serious solution. And I was like, I don't think that's going to work. And for years I just did it. I just wouldn't raise my arms above my head.
And I have a really hard time advocating for myself. I just don't.
Like today, coming out of my PT, remembering that to like kind of like kneel down to get that push thing, you know what I mean? And then like kick the door forward and then swing my cane out so I could like push the rest of my body out and then hope that I didn't get hit by the door. But then you always get hit by the door and it's just like, fuck this, man. And like I had just been taped because I'm in so much pain that I was like, I just don't need to be hit by a fucking door right now. You know what I mean? Like I just don't need that. So specific that I feel like I'm hiding a good portion of who I am.